Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Joshua T. Berglan, and you are about to experience the world's mayor experience, episode 2. Originally, when I was scheduling this broadcast, it was just going to be a very controlled, planned question interview. And about 2 seconds into it, had to throw that away. I should warn you that this episode comes with a trigger warning because anytime we talk about sexual abuse, it can be triggering. Because with sexual abuse, there's a lot of different triggers. There's a lot of unknown triggers. There's a lot of triggers that just sometimes don't even make sense. And I know this from my own experience. But at the same time, just because triggers exist and because hard subjects exist and there's different messed up realities in the world, it doesn't mean we get to ignore it. At least I'm not going to ignore it. And it's important for me to have these conversations because there's a lot of people out there that are suffering in silence. And that's just not going to work for me because I know what that feels like. Suffering in silence sucks. It's awful. And so I fully intended when I started the World's Mayor experience to have segments and all of that different things for every episode to mix it up. So it wouldn't just be two talking heads on a screen talking the whole time and wanted to mix it up and make it fun. And again, I have other segments that are supposed to go with this, but this is an hour long. And so this episode is just going to be this conversation, this very powerful conversation with Robert Uttaro. And again, he is an expert. He is an educator. He is a counselor. He works with victims of sexual violence. Now, if you've watched any of my old interviews or any of the mini documentaries we've done or the series that we've done over the years, we have worked in a lot of different ways with people that have dealt with sexual violence, including people that are locked away in shadow prisons for being accused of sexual violence. A lot of times, sexual violence they didn't commit. Now, that's a whole other conversation. That's a whole other broadcast. But believe me, we're going to talk about that more too, because there's a lot of new revelations coming from these shadow prisons. That said, there are a lot of victims of sexual abuse that deserve to have a voice, to be heard, and also to have a safe place to go, because without that safe place, there's no healing. So the World's Mayor experience, look, for all the flash and the pizzazz and the red carpet and the suits and all that stuff that I like to wear and be a part of, the fact is this, most of my life hasn't been all of that. And again, I love luxury. I love nice things. I love the bright lights. I love the big stage. I enjoy it. I do. It's exhilarating experience. But when I talk about having a global vision with a heart for community, that is in the essence, that is all that is what fuels me. Because yes, I want to help people all over the world. I get to help people all over the world. I am helping people all over the world, whether it's teaching media literacy or just sharing my healing journey of a crazy life that's depicted in the book that I wrote, The Devil Inside Me. But also, I have a heart for people in my own community, people in my neighborhood, people in my town, and people in my state, and people, I've lived in a lot of states and community, but community matters. And if you don't feel safe in your own community, you're never going to feel safe in the world. I know that from experience also. World can be a big, scary place, but it also can be very exciting and amazing and awesome. So the intention of the World's Mayor experience is to inspire people in the community. Well, I want to elevate people into their passion, their God-given purpose. And I want to help elevate people into a position where they can use their God-given gifts and talents to live the life of their dreams. Now, on the surface, that could seem superficial, but who that message is for are for the people that are misfits, outcasts, people that have been shunned from society, people that have been shunned from their own families, people that have been rejected from their religion, from their church, maybe because they're gay, maybe because they're bisexual, maybe because they're mentally unique, maybe because they're just different, maybe it's because they just want to be themselves. I don't know. But the fact is, there's a lot of people that are hurting. There's a lot of people that are suffering in silence. And we don't want to just be a voice for them. We want to inspire them to use their own voices, to share their own stories, and then provide the vehicle for them to deliver that message. Why we are passionate about teaching media, why this is my life's mission, is to get the knowledge of media, new media, and the future of media into the hearts and the minds and of these degenerates and outcasts and misfits and people that are just hanging on by a thread. I want to bring this to them all over the world, because ultimately I know that utilizing media is that vehicle to make your dreams come true, that vehicle to be able to show you that there is a better life out there. And the thing about media is it doesn't matter what your prison record is. It doesn't matter what has happened to you in life. It doesn't matter what your education is, or it doesn't even matter how much money you have, because you can learn media at no cost. And you can use that media as a vehicle to help you heal, to use your message in a positive way that inspires, that provides value to other people. Because guess what? Your existence has value. Your pain and suffering and your rehabilitation has value, because people need to know how you did it. Why sharing our story matters is because when we share the truth, it'll attract our tribe. And there's people that are right where you are, but they don't have the courage that you have to share your truth about what's going on with you. So this is a mission. This World's Mayor experience is not about me. Yeah, I'm the world's mayor, but I want to inspire other world's mayors. I want you to be passionate about elevating other people's passion and purpose. And why is that? Because it feels dadgum good to do, for one, but also we're not here to use our gifts and our talents that came from our creator for ourselves. We're here to use it to bless other people. And part of that is to share our story. And how do you do that? You use media, books, podcasts, TV shows, live streams, videos, books. And I say books, events, movies, documentaries. There's so many different ways to get your message out, to share your heart, to get a message out, to attract your tribe. There's so many different ways, and I'm passionate about teaching it. I offer multiple services on my website, theworldsmayor.com. But if you cannot afford my services, guess what? That doesn't mean we won't help you. We are all about exchanging value for value, and you all have value. So if you can't afford anything that I'm offering, please just reach out, because I'm here to serve. Anyway, so today's broadcast, again, Robert Uttaro comes with a trigger warning, because the subject matter is not necessarily easy, but this is a very heartfelt and inspiring interview. And Robert is just a genuinely amazing guy. And so if you're somebody that has been sexually abused, or somebody that loves somebody that has been sexually abused, this is the episode for you. I beg you, wherever you're watching from, if you're listening on the podcast, please share with friends. Please subscribe. Please follow. Please stay with this journey. We need your support, because I can't do this alone. The World's Mayor experience is not just going to be this, see me talking on screen. This is meant to travel. This is meant to go into communities and serve, and to teach media, to work with different organizations, to equip them with the tools that they need to be able to get the best out of the people they serve. In fact, it's to amplify their messages as well. It's not just the voiceless messages we want to deliver. We want to elevate the people that are elevating the voiceless. So it's not just elevating the voices for the voiceless. We are also speaking to the voiceless, and we want to elevate their voices. I may have mixed that up. That a dyslexic fit. Anyway, this is a special interview, but we need your support to grow, to get these messages out. I need you to please like, subscribe, wherever you're watching from, wherever you're listening from. Your support means the world. This is a very important mission to me, but I believe it is for other people too. So welcome welcome here. There is no judgment here. There is no, this is no, there's no religious abuse or no sexuality abuse. There's no abuse here. This is about love. This is about our God-given talents, our God-given purpose, and elevating our messages of truth. Because ultimately, the only way we're going to heal, the only way we're going to make this world a better place is with truth. And with truth, hopefully, compassion is inspired also. Because with compassion, we can forgive. And if we can forgive, we can love. And if we can love, well, we can pretty much do anything. Welcome to the World's Mayor Experience. And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, or however you identify, please welcome Robert Uttaro. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the World's Mayor Experience, episode 2, and we have a very special guest today, Mr. Robert Uttaro. Robert, how you doing, my man?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me.
It's so good to have you. This has been months in the making, and it's been quite the journey to be able to make this happen today. But I believe it is absolute perfect timing, and I'm so honored to have you here. But before we get into your very fascinating, very powerful story, can you tell us, what are you grateful for today and why?
Today, right now, I'm grateful that my mother has made it through 6 chemo treatments and she's still alive. She was recently diagnosed with stage 3 ovarian cancer a couple months ago, and she is just so amazing, so strong. She's been handling it with grace, and that she's still here with us today. So I am very thankful for that.
Holy wow. What? Oh, you know what? I got to just throw away the questions I had right now because I got to ask you about this. How inspiring is that for you to watch? I mean, that's a fighter.
So my mother's always been she's just one of the strongest, not even women I know, strongest people I know. And she has been a nurse working with addiction in detox for 49 years. And she's just so loving, so patient. She, so many, like, if people like anything good about me, so much of it comes from my mother. And yeah, it's amazing. It's inspiring to see her. And she doesn't complain. She's not negative. She's not, depressed. She's not, And I get why people can become depressed, and I get why people are negative. But to see her not be that way is such a testament to what is possible. And I think what, myself and my siblings and anyone around her should learn from and try to be like to me.
That is inspiring. Cancer got my dad, and
Mm,
so
sorry
I,
to hear that.
well, it happens to a lot of people, and but I'm always inspired by those who fight and do everything they can to heal. My father was one of those people, but it got too far ahead of him. It was one of those things. But hearing what your mother's done is that in itself is inspiring, and I can imagine how that fueled you. And anytime that you want to give up and quit on your mission, you can look to your mother and go, "Yeah, I'm not quitting today. She's not giving up, me neither." So I love that. That's inspiring. Now you have a very interesting and special work that you do. It's special in my heart, but I know it's special to many others. And I'm really curious, why did you dedicate your life to supporting survivors of sexual violence?
The simple answer is God.
Hmm.
God has given me this calling. It is deep within my heart. It is deep within my soul. It's something that I believe God gave me certain gifts to use, and it's up to me to do it, and it's up to me to work at it. I would argue it's up to all of us to use whatever gifts we might have, for other people, for ourselves, for other people, and for this world. And to add to that, just all the things I've learned in my life journey, the people I've met, the women I've met, the counselors, the volunteers, the people suffering, the people ready to kill themselves, the people addicted, you know, all the pain that these crimes cause, and how deep that it runs in so many people. And so I've learned, many things. But if often, so often of the time, if I can be helpful just by being with them and listening and just being present, and if that can actually help their lives or possibly even save their lives, well, I consider that a blessing. And so I will continue to do it.
Now, this may be too personal, but I, I want to actually I want to make this comment first. My belief has always been that it's really hard for anyone to truly be there for someone and to understand and to give compassion, and really even help navigate the healing journey unless they've done it themselves. And
Hmm.
yet at the same time, when it comes to sexual violence and people that have been sexually abused, that trauma stays in our body for a long time. I mean, even hearing me even saying the word sexual violence, like I felt it come up in my body because I could feel.
Hmm.
And and
Hmm.
and I've been on this healing journey for the last 7 years. And I also recognize sometimes that I can be 100 feet from somebody and I can feel that they've been abused.
Hmm.
Now, if somebody's not healed, that can be a scary thing, because there's a really odd feeling that comes for some people that have experienced sexual abuse, where they can sense it in other people, they can pick up on it. Sometimes people become predators themselves because that's what they learned. I mean, there's a lot of different triggers. So
Hmm.
then that kind of defeats my argument by saying you've had to have been through it to understand.
Hmm.
From a professional standpoint, what is your viewpoint on that? Do you need to be somebody that's been sexually abused to be able to properly help somebody heal and go through the process of healing their trauma? Or is it best that you haven't been?
I I don't believe you have to experience something to be helpful to someone else. I don't believe you have to, you know, uh, suffer with starvation to be able to help feed people.
True.
Um, and yet, at the same time, there's such a there's so much power in when people come forward and they share their story. They say anything, and someone else resonates with that. So there's a depth, a level that people connect with that I can't necessarily connect with them on that level if I don't have similar experiences. So it kind of varies. And people are so different, and it depends. And what you said, thank you for sharing that in the first place. And I think I just wanted to say that that's totally normal to have physical responses, reactions, even by saying the words. To say the word rape is very difficult for many, many, many people, and that is completely okay. And what we didn't even do is give a trigger warning in this interview now. It's just to let people know that if they're listening to this, to really take care of themselves during and after this process, and to turn it off if it's too much for them at the time. So it really varies. There are plenty of people that feel comfortable speaking with me, and there's plenty of people that don't, and that's beautiful to me. I think it's just vitally important that if someone's hurting or suffering, whatever it is, whether it's sexual abuse or something else, to be able to find someone that they ideally trust and that will treat them well and treat them the way they deserve to be treated, and that they build a relationship and really grow in that healing. And if that doesn't happen, to find someone else.
Can you share a story or instance that deeply impacted you or reinforced your commitment to the cause?
Oh, right now, talking with you,
Oh,
it inspires me
why?
to keep going. It's like, when I have interactions like this, when I'm interviewed, and or I mean, every time I'm working with a rape survivor. I mean, just recently I was working with a woman for many years, and she was still just stuck on so much in the past and so much of her ex-boyfriend and all these things, and I feel like we're not getting anywhere, right? And so I either have to ask a different question, or there has to be a different way, because we're just asking the same thing, and then we just said things a little differently and push her a little bit more, whatever it is. And she ultimately kind of came out of it. She's starting to see, finally putting the blame not on herself as
Mhm.
much. And that's a huge thing in a healing process. So I was so proud of her. And we actually had a breakthrough. It took years to get there. But, and now, because she was saying, I feel like I'm going backwards. I'm like, no, you're not going backwards. You were always back there with this one specific issue. You've come forward in so many ways, but in this one specific issue, you've always been back there. And now we are going forward. If you now ask the same questions in the future, then you could argue that you're going backwards in a certain point. But there's also nothing wrong with just being triggered and having struggles and having doubts. And that's another reason it's important for her and other people to reach out to someone to combat a lot of the lies that come from the effects of sexual violence.
Wow, that's a really good answer. What?
Did that make
Okay.
sense to you?
Yeah, it does. It makes perfect sense. And this is another question that just kind of popped in my head as you were talking. And from my own experience, and other victims that I've spoken to will say the same thing. What is the deal? Why do we, like, for instance, for me, I went back and recreated my molestation scenarios, but I did it as an adult. Like when I was able in an appropriate age to have sex,
Mm-hmm.
I went out seeking to recreate the situations that happened to me. And it was almost like I was trying to make it right in my brain. Is that what that is? Or is there something much deeper going on? Because some people either become they become victims again, or they become perpetrators, or they get in one of those situations where they constantly try to recreate the scenario to
Mm-hmm.
repaint it in your mind or reshape it, reframe it. Do you understand what that all is? Because I'm 44 years old now, and for 37 years of my life, I've tried to find different ways to reimagine it in my brain where it wasn't something that hurt me. Can
Mm-hmm.
you, or it wasn't over sexualized, because I over sexualized those thoughts and those things that had happened to me when I was recreating it, to the point where that became extremely unhealthy. Where
Mm-hmm.
does that come from?
So can I ask you a question?
Please.
Um, what were you, or what are you trying to make right? What does that mean?
Well, I mean, I'm well past the point of trying to make it right. Now the work I'm doing is really having a healthy relationship with sex,
Okay.
and not sexualizing situation. I mean, I like incoherently would sexualize a situation subconsciously, consciously, and not even intend to. But that's where my
Mm-hmm.
brain would go,
Mm-hmm.
because I was constantly looking for ways to heal it, because there's religious trauma that's built into my scenarios, but then also the nature of what had happened to me as a kid. And again, I'm well past that point of recreating it to make it right. But then it just became one of those things where it was very challenging for me to just have normal sex
Mm,
because the way that I was molested the first time was with two men.
mm,
And so then as I got older, the way that I would try to recreate it was not just with two men, but then I would try to add a woman in to make it safe, to make me
mm,
feel safe. And now and again, I've grown. Now I have actual friendships and relationships for the first time in my life. And all of that's great. And even through that, I've realized, wow, I have some work to do still and some healing to do because in my brain, I can sexualize a situation and not intend to or not mean
mm,
to. And I
mhm,
know that that is still, those are areas of healing that needs to be done. Did that
mm,
answer your
mhm.
question?
Yeah, I mean, and thank you again for your vulnerability. To me, it speaks to the how powerful and traumatic it really is for any form of childhood sexual abuse.
Hmm.
That you can still, without even trying or knowing whether you consciously or subconsciously do something, that it can still go that certain path speaks to how traumatic childhood sexual abuse is. And so it's one of the reasons I believe that it takes many, 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 many years, and healing comes in different forms, and without even knowing, again, more details of your life and your experience. But it's normal to, I believe it's normal to go into the past to recreate things, or normal to go in the past to try to understand things or try to remember things. But then there also might come a point in time when it isn't, or that it's not beneficial maybe anymore. And sometimes it's trying to move forward instead of going back. But for what you're saying specifically, it's like you could look at an example. Say a kid grows up with a parent who's just constantly negative or constantly anxious. You know what I mean? And ever since they're a young kid, and then their immediate response to some social thing could be negativity or anxiety. And you could say, why do you think that? Why do you do that? Why do you immediately go there? And you say, well, actually, my parent was always this way. And what a lot of people don't want to do is to think about children who are sexually abused. And so when a child is learning how to read and write and communicate and fail, if you add in a sexually traumatic incident, you could see how that could easily become part of their brain, part of their psyche, part of their being, right? And how normal it is to them, which is utterly heartbreaking. And I don't believe we have words to truly describe what that is. Is that making sense in what you're getting at?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And what you said, even with men, for example, there are so many misconceptions about these issues. And one of the misconceptions, or that some people believe, is that if a boy is molested or raped by a man, they are either gay or will become gay, or it's just sexual trauma can manifest itself in just different ways.
Hmm.
And some of that can be in sexual confusion. There are gay men that I know who have been sexually abused, but they're not gay because they've been sexually abused. That's not even close to true. They're just gay. But there are other men who have questioned their own sexual identity and questioned their own truths because of trauma. And sometimes it's almost as simple as that.
I'll just be honest. I mean, for me, I battled my sexuality for so long. And then again, you factor in the religious side of it, factor in,
Mm-hmm.
societal pressure. But I got to this point where I just said, I don't even care anymore. Like, I don't care what my sexuality is. I'm in a
Mm-hmm.
loving, happy relationship. If I recognize that I'm attracted to somebody that is the same sex, or I'm not even sure the sex, or whatever it may be, then I just go, okay, well, I'm attracted to him. I didn't mean I need to go out and sleep with everyone. It doesn't mean I need to go out and get on a sex app. And I did all those things. I mean, because when I would get triggered and, stimulated in some way, and they're like, ooh, I got to go hunt that down. And I had a lot of bad behavior and bad habits around that. But now I've gotten to a place where it just is. And I'm at peace with that. I'm at peace with myself. Now I needed to identify and label it for the sake of truth. I needed to call myself bisexual. to my family because I was going to talk about issues that would cause people to assume that it's labeled that. But the
Mm,
truth is, I wouldn't label that because
mm,
I
mm,
look at it more as an energy thing. If I'm attracted, I'm attracted, and that's what it is. But I'm also not going out and cheating on my partner, Jessica, and I'm not, going out and sleeping around like I used to. I'm not doing those
mm,
things because I'm serious about having this healthy relationship with sex because I noticed that, well, I got to be honest with you. I was a big whore, and I was a literal whore and a figurative whore.
mhm,
But the truth is that I sincerely love being able to make love to the love of my life and best friend and best partner and best everything, Jessica. She is my soulmate. And the
mm,
more energy of mine that I can give her that is not distracted by creating these scenarios in my mind to be stimulated, which is what I had to do for so long. I'm realizing now that love is a better aphrodisiac than being an effing pervert. And
mhm,
that is a new thing for me. And I know that that sounds like, well, no kidding, Joshua, but that's the God's honest truth that is
mhm,
where I'm at. And I'm starting to understand. And again, listen, I've got my opinions about the Bible that I'm going to keep to myself. And I still love the Bible, but I don't think it's necessarily everything is perfect in it. And I do believe that man manipulated some of it. But that said, there is something to say about being able to just give yourself to one person. Like if I could
mhm,
go back in time and go, I'm a virgin for Jessica,
mhm.
you better believe that I would do it because I'm recognizing that power of connection and that spiritual connection that can come through love. And it's so unique and special, but I wasn't ever capable of experiencing that till now. And I'm just at the cusp or the I don't know what the right word is, but like I'm just now starting to understand it. So like the more I learn to love and the more I remove these distractions of lust and external stimulation outside, and it's the focus is more on her and our bond together and the love that we share. So I can't believe I'm even saying these words because it's not normal for me to say this, but it's far better and it's far more beautiful and it's far more healing because I don't feel shame afterwards. I don't feel like, you know, I just feel at peace and I just feel something much, much different than I ever felt before. I don't know how to explain it.
Have you shared that to her? Have
Yeah.
you told her?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
she should watch this.
she does.
Yeah.
But here's the thing too. I would not even be at this point if I hadn't gotten to the point that I was tired of lying. Because when we have shame, it's hard to tell the truth. And from the very beginning of our relationship, I told her the truth. I told her where I was at, and I was an evangelist at the time too. And so that was really hard. But I was honest on stage about it. Like I never once I started that process, I was always honest about where I was at. It's probably why my evangelism career didn't go so well because I was, that one pastor behind the pulpit that was being honest about their sin and what they were struggling with. But that was the only way for me. Because if it would have been so easy for me to have secrets and hide. So I've been very comfortable talking to her about it openly, and she's loved me all the way through it. She's gone on the ride, the ups and downs. Oh, I'm bi, I'm not. I want to be straight. I want to be abstinent. I want to have an open relationship. She's gone through all that ride from as I was healing, and she's just loved me through it.
Mm.
And I'm extremely grateful for that because it's not easy. But I got to tell you, I know for a fact that I wouldn't have any of this healing or this feeling of love and feeling of there's a better way to do this if I didn't start telling the truth. And
Mm.
even though my truth has changed about my feelings about my sexuality and what I view about sex, you still get to be honest about where you're at in that moment. And that in itself can be healing.
You asked me earlier about a story, and I told you talking to you is inspirational because that's such a phenomenal testimony. That's inspiring to married couples, to couples in general, to people who are battling sexual trauma and battling how that affects their identities and their sexuality and their sexual choices. You can't, I don't believe you can control who you're attracted to. I don't believe anyone
Mhm.
can control that. What you can control is ultimately what you do about it, right? That's ultimately it. Whether you choose to do something, you can't, I can't, like, if I walk down the street and there's a beautiful woman I'm attracted, I can't lie and say I'm not, unless I don't look at her if I'm attracted. But I'm married, and it doesn't mean I go talk to that woman. Doesn't mean I try to date that woman. Doesn't mean I cheat on my wife. Um, and I don't, I wouldn't claim to know everything about God or the Bible, but I've told my students this: God either exists or doesn't exist.
Mm,
And if God doesn't exist, then this is what we have. But if God does exist, you are loved, and God is love. And so I have a difficult time understanding how anyone could have an issue with two consenting people who are genuinely in love
yeah.
and intimacy. And this is part of your healing. So, based on what you've told me today, I don't believe you need to recreate things. And I don't believe you need to recreate things in the past, but that doesn't mean that the mind won't go there occasionally. And it's no different than other temptations or people struggling with different addictions or different moral issues that they might be facing. If you once you recognize it, try to maybe stop it or just try to take the energy in a different route and move on and leave it behind you because you clearly have found love and you said you found your soulmate. How beautiful is that?
Oh, it's been amazing. And the other part too is that I've learned that a lot of the things that I've told myself to be true are really just fragmented parts that have made me
Mhm.
believe something is true for me. Because as I'm going through this process of learning to master myself, because at this point, I'm only competing against myself, and I know that I'm my best friend or my worst enemy. I don't fear anything outside of me. I don't fear what's happening in the world. I don't fear any of that because I know that God has a plan for my life. God spared my life for a reason. God has given me an opportunity to redeem my life. And because of that, I take it serious. So I figure, well, if he saved me from all that other stuff that I was doing, then God is going to get me through this.
Mm,
And God spared me for a reason. So now I get to do this. And the more I go down this journey, I start to realize that this is not anyone else's race. This is my race. This is my journey. This is my hero's journey that I signed up for. And I chose this path to walk with God. And you know what? I have zero regrets. But part of that I've learned too is that I get to face myself and realize that some of this crap that I'm doing is really just is a self-inflicted wound. And I get to do the work to ensure that I quit. I take the I've done everything I could to remove the bullets from other people by telling the
mm,
truth.
mm,
Now I get to remove the bullets from my own gun that I hurt myself with. And
mm,
that's the
mm,
new journey that I'm on. And I love it though, because of that, the more layers and the more fragments that I heal, the bigger and greater my capacity to love is. And I
mm,
firmly believe I'm here on this planet to love, to be love,
mm,
and really to be free. And that is free of the burdens that I can put on myself, free from a sinful life that serves nothing but something that doesn't matter in the end.
mm, mm,
And I'm learning to appreciate life, all that comes with life, like everything that I'm learning that has value in my life doesn't cost a penny.
mm,
God has blessed me with so many things to be grateful for, to love, to appreciate, to take care of. I mean, I realize that some of it requires money to take care of,
sure.
but ultimately the people in my life and the things in my life and even the community that I get to live in, like it's a gift and it's special, and honestly it's free, and it's really changing my perspective on what's valuable and what's important and what really matters in life. And it's not sex. It's not sex. Sex is great, but that's not a motivational force anymore. And that feels good because that feels like healing is taking place.
It sounds like it is. I'm very happy for you. You said something earlier. You said the word shame. I've never met someone in my life who's been sexually violated who has not felt shame, experienced shame. Um, and it's just so sad. And so many people are so insecure. They have such little self-esteem. Many people have absolutely no self-esteem. And sometimes the only thing that makes them feel confident or comfortable or even really powerful is sex. And so sex and sexual abuse are very powerful forces. And so they have different meanings, and sex can so often be meaningless. But what you're describing with your soulmate just sounds so meaningful. But you can understand, the more you talk, you can understand, at least I can understand, how you have gone down that path and how you have made those choices and how has been such a vital part of your life and how other people can be going through similar journeys as well. And then once you clearly hit a point, you said you're in love, you experience intimacy, and that sex is not the driving force,
Mm.
shall you say. I guess those are my words now. It's not your driving force anymore. Um, Sounds like a massive life change and immensely healing and so inspirational to other people.
Oh, I it's a privilege to learn. I mean, I thought my life was over when I found out I had HIV. I mean, I
Mhm.
remember how I acted after and what
Mhm.
I did. And to go back and to think of that time and to see now, it's like, wow. And you're right. I there's a big part of me that I want to scream from the mountaintops. And I'm often torn between how often I talk about this kind of stuff and how much of this I share, because I've shared in our book, and it's all in there. And at the same time, like some people I've been accused of living in the past, and it's really not the case, because I'm moving forward at an accelerated rate, except for the fact that I know people personally that are suffering in silence because they are afraid to talk about being
Mhm.
sexually abused. They're afraid that the church, that their family, that their wives are going to shun them and get rid of them and divorce them and take their kids from them and all that if they talk about the fact that they have sexual desires towards people of the same sex,
Mhm.
or
Mhm.
or just have this unhealthy relationship, or they have this addiction, and they're afraid to talk about it, and because of that, it's just poisoning their soul, it's poisoning their spirit, and when that happens, then the bad behavior gets worse, and then you become miserable, and then everything in your life goes to hell. And I got to tell you, and I've lived that life, and there's no judgment. Like, I don't judge cheaters. I was the worst cheater you can ever imagine. But at the same time, if people understood that they're not just hurting themselves, and they're not just hurting the person they're cheating on, they're hurting generations of family. They're hurting friendships. They're hurting, and then they're putting their partners at risk, and then they feel like there's no way out. And that is the biggest lie there is. There's always a way out of a lie, and that's the truth. And it's effing painful to tell the truth. It was so painful to pick up the phone and go, Mom, I have HIV. Mom, I'm bisexual. Or Mom, I'm in jail again. Mom, I got arrested with an escort. Mom, I like, I'm in jail because of domestic violence. Well, why'd you get in a fight? Well, because she caught me cheating and I got angry trying to protect it, and I freaked out and I was all strung out on cocaine. And like, I mean, these are the behaviors when you're trying to protect the lie. It's like you're protecting it with your life, and at the same time, you're ending your life. You're ending all that matters with the lies. You're poisoning everything that you've been blessed with lies. And the easiest solution I can give you, and it's the most painful, is just start telling the truth. And truth has this really amazing supernatural way of healing. It's God's truth, what God says about you, what God sees about you, recognizing that, and being able to recognize that God sees you as not this abused, wounded, lying, cheating, diseased, homosexual, bisexual, transgender. God doesn't see you that way. And starting to recognize that and truly see that really helps you understand that, you know what, I can become what I was created to be, but it all starts with truth, and you can't be it without truth. And anyway, I'm going to start rambling. So I want to ask you something though.
No, just no, because you can swear with me, by the way. It's okay. We have fucking teenagers that are killing themselves because they're gay.
Yeah.
That is not okay. Is that what God wants?
No. God,
Is
no.
that where in the Gospels? Where in the Gospels did Jesus treat people that way?
Never.
Never. Never. Okay? So if you claim to believe in Jesus Christ, if you claim to love Jesus, he's your Lord and Savior, he's God, he's the Son of God, he is your light and being, but you treat someone who might be gay or not gay or struggling or might be or just you'd rather them live a lie to everything you just said. I don't believe that for a second. It's causing much more damage. It is, if not the biggest lie, one of the biggest lies in all of existence to me. And it's absolutely destroying people. And it's not okay, and it's nowhere in the Gospels that I see in my interpretation of Jesus being okay with that or wanting that. He said, "Follow me." Said, "Come to me." When did he not listen to people? When did he not? He was with prostitutes. He was with criminals. He was with the poor. He healed people. He taught people. Why do we do this? And it's killing our kids. It's killing adults. It's destroying people in many ways. All in what? Self-righteousness? All in self-righteousness, all in the name of God. This is I find it atrocious to me. So I'm hearing everything you're saying, and I'm glad that you don't have that. And in my work, in this work that I do, again, this is I've done this with God, and I'll continue to do it as long as I can if I'm effective. There are truth and lies. Like you say this, there are truth and lies, and these crimes, it distorts almost everything in one's existence. And so all the truth is like gone and it's all lies, and the lies are very powerful. And so a big part of what I do is to actually combat the lies with truth.
Mm.
And that is always worth the time. And sometimes it takes 3 hours with a human being, even for one little moment. But it's that one moment, it's like, wait, oh, wait, okay. And that can take years for people. And that's okay. There's no timetable on any of this. But there are truth and lies, and sexual abuse infects, it teaches people lies, and those lies destroy in time to everything you're getting at. So to speak the truth, and it's very difficult, it's terrifying. Is it not terrifying? It is terrifying. If anyone's out there listening to this, it is okay. If you're terrified to speak about sex, sexual identity, your desires, your attractions, abuse, whatever it is, but nothing is unspeakable. I had a woman recently, she called me, and she's so mad at herself because she's angry at God. And I go, but it's okay. It's okay to be angry with God and get it out. Because what's it's doing? Do you really think God is mad at you for being angry right now? You're angry because you're hurting. You're hurting because you were raped by someone you thought loved and trusted you multiple times. It's okay to be angry. Get the anger out, and you're better off for it. It's worse to keep it in.
You're right. I don't want to speak. I'm not going to name the pastor's son that killed himself because he was gay, but
So
I
sad.
will talk about
Breaks my heart, man.
it. Yeah, he's one of the most famous preachers alive, and it's so ironic too because I was a part of that church when I first gave my life to God, and golly, I remember sharing my testimony in a men's Bible study, and I'm so happy that my commitment to this path was serious that time, or this, like I was serious when I gave my life to the Lord that time. I was serious and I was committed to doing the work, because the way I was treated in that church for saying that I am still very much attracted to men, and like that's part of my sexuality has not gone away as much as I pray for it to go away. And the way I was treated was heartbreaking, but I was committed to the personal relationship, not the community relationship. And
Mm-hmm.
And it seemed like every church I went into, I was crying out for help. Like, I don't want to be this way. I don't want to be mentally ill, and I don't want to have dissociative identity disorder anymore. And I don't want to have these sexual desires that cripple me because I'm going to go to hell for feeling this way. Like, that is a bad, awful thing to say to yourself. I'm an abomination. I'm going to hell because I'm attracted to the same. Like, those are awful things to say to yourself. And then to
Yeah,
hear it, worse.
but people saying it to you as well.
Yes.
Right. People that are mediums for God.
Exactly. And the people that celebrate you when you give your life to the Lord, but no one's magically erased and magically healed. And where, yeah, you have that spiritual high where you feel like you're walking on water for a few weeks. But I mean, eventually life comes and kicks you in the nuts again. And then guess what? If you don't have the tools to know how to respond to being kicked in the nuts by life, you may just freak out, or you may just fall back to an old behavior. Like, you're not perfect after you go through that transformation. You're not perfect, but so it was heartbreaking. And it reminded me, so right after that, I found out two guys I knew that I grew up playing golf with. We're in the same golf tour community. They had killed themselves, and it was not right back to back. I mean, it was like, but I just gotten word about the two people that had. One person was more recent, and then found out about the other guy later. But it was around the same. It wasn't around the same time period that they had killed themselves. I found out about both of them that same day, and I found out why they did it. And they were both Christians, and they were both battling their bisexuality, and they couldn't handle it. They couldn't handle it because their father, the father church, those kind of scenarios, the comments that were being made, and they couldn't handle that feeling. The feeling like an abomination, feeling like they were being judged, that they weren't loved and they weren't accepted by their family. And so they killed themselves, not the same exact reasons, but it was in regards to their sexuality. And that ripped my heart out to hear, because one, I knew them, and two, I was literally going through the same thing. And I know what those suicidal thoughts and images and movies that would play in my head, because you can only call or hear that you're an abomination so long before you snap.
Sure.
And it's no wonder, like, look, I don't get behind any well-funded agenda, because if it's well-funded, there's probably an agenda. But that said, I also understand that there's a lot of people out there that don't feel heard. They don't even feel safe enough to share what they believe to be true, because they're worried about what will happen to them from the public, from social media, from friends, from their community, from their church, from their school, whatever it may be, from their job. And that alone is a problem. And it's all of our problems. It's all of our problems. We're all guilty. We're all complicit, in my opinion, at creating this environment where it's not safe to tell the truth. Now, we can get a lot of opinions. We've created that culture, opinion culture, but that's just become reciting what we hear. None of it's rooted in fact. And most of the opinions that people share, you could easily go, oh, they watch Fox, they watch CNN, they watch MSNBC. It's because it's the talking points. That's all they have. Mm-hmm. But we don't welcome actual truth. Like, we don't want to hear the truth as a whole. And that is a problem. And because of that, I think that we're silencing people's voices that must be heard. And those are the people that have been raped by society, whether it's literal or figuratively. Those people deserve to have a voice. Those people deserve to be heard, because I think some of our judgments towards lashing out at transgendered people, lashing out at drag queens, and lashing out at gay people and bisexual people, and all this mocking that happens, I think if we actually learned the stories of the people that are going through these dramatic changes, mm-hmm, maybe we would have compassion and understanding. And maybe with compassion and understanding, people wouldn't go to such extremes to be heard.
When you were talking, I was thinking of, I try to envision Jesus teaching.
Mm.
What was it like, when he's just sitting on a rock, right? And people just, what did he want? Well, from what I think I understand, he wanted people to just come and listen to him and spend time with him and listen and move on from there with wisdom, with peace, with strength, with spirit, with God. Leave better than when you came. And so, as dumb as this sounds, when I teach in my classes, I don't give like seating plans, and they're like, "Wait, why don't you?" I'm like, "Because I don't care where you sit. It doesn't matter to me." Right. And that's foreign to them. But I'm like, I really don't care where you sit if you can handle it. If you can't handle sitting next to your friends, you got to go. And there's plenty of plenty of kids that can't. But that's not what I'm here. That's not what we're here for, my friends. All right. Like, this is not the purpose of what we're doing. Um, it is so important for people to feel safe, regardless of their beliefs. And that's true in many different beliefs: sexual identity, religious beliefs, politics. And so, whether it's you're an adult, a teacher, or just someone who is involved with people, to ideally be somewhat of an objective presence, to just hear different points of view, or just to provide a safe space. When I give trainings, or just in schools, or whatever it might be, even in this interview now, trying to provide a safe space for someone to feel comfortable sharing their truth, their opinion, their beliefs, their experiences. And when we don't, it does cause a lot of destruction. There are a lot of people, as you said earlier, who are really suffering in silence. And there are justified reasons as to why that's true. There are people who are hurting. And how is it better that they suffer in silence? Is
Mm.
anything they say, can it be that much worse than what human beings actually do on this earth to each other?
Very good question. Very good question. Wow, Robert, I told you before we started that I actually wrote down questions, and I was and fully intended to ask you every one of those questions, and it just didn't happen. But I'm actually enjoyed this much more, and because of that, I want to have you back to have another conversation, where I actually ask you these questions, or different
Okay.
questions, because I really enjoyed just getting to know you and getting to know your heart. But I would like to leave the last few minutes for you to talk about your book, To the Survivors, and then also just plug anything that you want to plug and share any last words. Maybe even share, like, if you're talking to a room full of not just survivors of sexual violence, but the people that love those that have been sexually abused. Can you, yeah, just the floor is yours, sir.
Yeah. I mean, thank you again for having me. Thank you for this conversation, and thank you for opening up. Um, um, I consider myself a blessed man to be able to um, have these conversations. When people choose to open up to me about these things, it's very special. And if someone opens up to you, that means it's very special that you provided a safe space for them, right? If people disclose to you, that must mean you have
Mm.
something good that can be very powerful, and you're very helpful to them. So thank you for this. I just want to say there's nothing on this earth that's unspeakable, that it can be talked about, it can be expressed through music, through art, through dance, through writing, through screaming, and through anger and rage, and through many different things. Um, but it's not unspeakable, and you're not condemned for all of existence. It really hurts me. It makes me very sad when people are condemned through God because of something they didn't even choose in the first place. And especially, even if they did choose it, it's still what they choose, because we make choices every day. But you do have a lot of people who are sexually abused. You do have people who are abused as children, and that abuse can sometimes play a role in thoughts and questions and experiences and choices and actions that you disagree with or find abhorrent. But in reality, they just might be acting out or just trying to deal with something. So I would ask the Christians to think about how Jesus would actually treat people.
Hmm.
Um, and to those who love them, to survivors out there, you're not alone. You're never alone. There are people out there that will always sit with you and listen to you, and you really can get through this. You used the word earlier about cripple. I've never told someone it hasn't happened to you, and it doesn't mean that you're going to just forget it,
Yeah.
but it doesn't mean it has to cripple and control you. It doesn't have to destroy you. And to those who love people who have experienced this, to continue to love them just the way you described your partner, to be with you, to listen to them, to attempt to understand, to the best of your abilities. You may never fully understand because you're not them, you know. I'm not you, Joshua, but I can think about it and try to understand where you've been and where you come from and where you're going, right? But I'm ultimately not you. So to try to be as empathetic and compassionate and patient and gentle
Hmm.
as possible, to believe and to listen and to support them, and to share conversations like this. If this is helpful, spread it, and if it isn't, okay. Um, and my book speaks to that. I believe my book is called "To the Survivors." It's about my journey as a rape crisis counselor with true stories of women, men, and one transgendered man who have been raped and sexually assaulted, all in their own words. So there's interviews, written stories, and written poetry. Agree or disagree, that's just the truth. That's their raw stories. And I believe there's so much power in their stories. So it shows what happened to them, how it affected them, but how they've come out of it, in hopes that other people might connect with it. And maybe it can be helpful in the healing process as well. And if anyone out there has any desire to do this work, go do it. You have the gifts, you have the tools, you can do it. You can make a real difference in the evil that is sexual violence.
Absolutely beautiful. Robert, thank you for your time. Thank you for your message. Thank you for your heart. And thank you for the work you do because, you know, um, my guidance counselor told me that it was normal for little boys to do that or to experience that. And I remember when I heard that, how much it messed me up because it's not normal for grown people to force themselves sexually on kids. It's not. And I just and I don't know why that was said. I don't know why there's people out there that say those things. And I know that I'm not the only one that's ever heard that. But I'm thankful for people like you because look, it can't be a glamorous job. You talked about being patient and gentle, and I those words stick out to me because what happened wasn't gentle, and yet at the same time realizing that in trying to go through the healing journey that I've gone through or am going through, and seeking out resources and trying to find a safe place to go, there's not a lot of patience. And and some people try, but it's really hard to be in a relationship, whether it's friendship or even dating, with somebody that's been sexually abused, because again, the trauma is in their body, it's in their mind, and it can come out in the weirdest ways. And it takes a very patient, emotionally mature, and compassionate human to want to enter into a relationship with someone that's been abused, but then to take it on as a profession where you dedicate your life to be in service to a very complicated situation. It takes a special person, and I'm grateful for you, Robert, for the work that you do, and also the fact that you're assisting in breaking the cycle of pain, of trauma, of abuse, and mental health issues, and disease, and addiction, and so many other things by the work that you do. So God bless you, man, and thank you, thank you, thank you for being here.
I mean, if you thank me, you got to thank God, because God gave me this calling. God has never left me. That's where I gain my strength from, and how I continue to do it. For me personally, I learned the most through Jesus. That's me personally, and that's not a biblical, theological, legal argument and quoting scripture. It's just there's something. This is about evil. This is about spirituality. This is about pain and suffering and healing. And people really do heal. You know, you're a testament to that. And I'm so sorry that that was said to you. That is truly horrible to say to a kid, to say to an adult.
No.
And part of my work is trying to teach people how to respond, how not to respond. You're better off not saying a word than to say that, because the first times when someone says something, the way we respond is just vitally important. It can lead a person down a path of healing and destruction. It's a fact, and that can stay with people, as you clearly can say, for years. And I'm sorry that happened. It shouldn't have happened. So just so you know too, appreciate this conversation, but you have my email. It's not like, if you ever need anything, you can always reach out to me at any time. And I'll always respond if I'm available.
God bless you, Robert. Thank you for being here, man.
God bless you as well.
Thank you.
Peace.
Yeah. My come never sleep on me. Eyes on my chain, 숙여 너의 고개를 what you looking at fool. 너의 눈 흐리멍텅했고 find your comfort from another yeah. I go low like undercover yeah. Wanna know my name 죽지 않은 일은 위에 부어버려 기름 guess you can even guess me cause I'm baby high low로 확실해 not like maybe Level level welcome to my palace 찾지 않아 Alice you just keep on wonder You just keep on wonder 찾지 않아 Alice but 너의 memory I just pop a bin Danny have been 나는 걸어 Boeing 747 날 get weak get ready Like I wanna get late 준비해 빨리 we ain't got a lot of time man wavy night Jameson hit the rock bottom 잃어버린 정신머리들 yeah I got 'em yeah I shot 'em 모든 problems 언제까지 기다려야 할래 now gone yeah Yeah. My come never sleep on me. Eyes on my chain, 숙여 너의 고개를 what you looking at fool. 너의 눈 흐리멍텅했고 find your comfort from another yeah. I go low like undercover yeah. Wanna know my name 죽지 않은 일은 위에 부어버려 기름 guess you can even guess me cause I'm baby high low로 확실해 not like maybe Level level welcome to my palace 찾지 않아 Alice you just keep on wonder You just keep on wonder 찾지 않아 Alice but 너의 memory I just pop a bin Danny have been 나는 걸어 Boeing 747 날 get weak get ready